Hey, this is Mark, and to all the neurotypical wives out there who may be suffering from Cassandra Syndrome, this video is for you. If you've ever sat across from your ASD husband in the middle of a difficult conversation and he goes quiet, he's not just thinking, but he's gone quiet, and something inside you tightens, and your mind starts filling the blank with things like, well, he doesn't care, or he's shutting me out, or I'm alone in this marriage, I'm not important to him, and so on. I want to slow that moment down with you today, because what looks like emotional neglect is often something very different. It's not absence, it's not indifference, it's a neurological processing gap. And if you don't understand this gap, you'll keep trying to solve the wrong problem and unintentionally deepen the very disconnection you're trying to fix. So today we're going to map that gap clearly so you can finally see what's happening in real time. So let's start with what this feels like from your side. You bring something important, something emotional, something that matters deeply to you, and instead of engagement, you get silence, minimal response, flat logical answers that completely miss your emotional weight, and your nervous system does what nervous systems do. It tries to make meaning quickly, and the meaning it lands on is usually, this is just not important to him. Now here's where the loop begins. You feel hurt, you push harder, your tone intensifies, you ask more questions, and you demand more engagement. And what happens on his side? He goes quieter, or he shuts down completely, and now your brain says, see, I was right, I'm not important to him. But what if that interpretation isn't just incomplete? What if it's pointing in the wrong direction entirely? So, let me introduce you to what I call the logic gap. This is the space between how you process emotional experience and how your ASD husband processes incoming information. Most autistic men process emotions through cognition first, not because they lack emotion, but because their brain organizes input differently. So when you say something like, I feel like you don't prioritize me, your brain is really saying, connect with me emotionally right now. But his brain hears, problem statement detected, analyze for accuracy. So instead of responding emotionally, he goes internal. He starts scanning. What did I do? When did this happen? Is this objectively true? What's the correct response? And here's the key. That process takes time. When it comes to social and emotional nuances, your ASD husband is a slow, very slow processor. And during that time, he often goes quiet. Not because he doesn't care, not because he doesn't love you, not because he doesn't want to make you happy, but because his brain is working hard to not get it wrong. So listen here, please. Know that silence is not absence. This is where the biggest misinterpretation happens. You experience his silence as disconnection, withdrawal, emotional abandonment, but very often his silence is cognitive load, processing delay, and internal problem solving. Let me say this again very clearly. His silence is cognitive preservation, not emotional abandonment. He's trying to avoid saying the wrong thing, avoid escalating the situation, avoid being inaccurate, avoid creating more damage. But here's the painful irony. The longer he stays silent to protect the situation, the more unsafe you feel. And the more unsafe you feel, the more intense your approach becomes, and that intensity is overload in his system. And now both of you are trapped in a loop that neither of you understands. Let's look at a real life example here. We're going to make this real. Imagine this moment. You say, I feel like you don't listen to me anymore. You're not asking for a debate, you're asking for a connection. But here's what happens internally for your ASD husband. First of all, he thinks, don't listen? That's not accurate, I do listen. 2, when specifically did this happen, this business of me not listening? Step 3, okay, well, if I respond to her emotionally right now, I might validate something that isn't factually correct. Step 4, he thinks, I need to think before I respond. So he pauses, and from your side, that pause feels like rejection. So you say, see, you're doing it right now. You're disconnecting from me right now. And now his brain goes, oh, okay, well, I'm being accused while trying to process. This is escalating. And now he either withdraws completely or responds defensively, and now you feel even more alone, and the logic gap is in motion. Let's talk about the hidden processing delay. Here's something most neurodiverse couples never identify. Processing time mismatch, okay? You're processing emotionally in real time. He processes cognitively with a huge delay. So you're ready for connection. He's still trying to understand the data. And if you don't recognize that delay, you will interpret it as lack of care, dismissiveness, narcissism, and so on. But what's actually happening is this. He hasn't caught up with you yet. He hasn't caught up with you emotionally or cognitively. He's still in mid-process. Now let's talk about why pushing harder backfires. When you feel that gap, your instinct is to close it. So you ask more questions, repeat your point, increase emotional intensity, try to pull him into the moment. But from his nervous system perspective, that doesn't feel like connection. It feels like increased demand under overload. And when demand increases faster than processing capacity, the system shuts down. So the very thing you're doing to create closeness is actually making closeness neurologically impossible for him. Now let's reframe this very clearly. When he goes quiet, instead of thinking, well, he just doesn't care, try this. Okay, he's processing over there and he may need structure to stay engaged. That one shift alone can completely change how you responded, because now you're not reacting to perceived rejection. You're responding to a different processing style. Now let's look at some practical tools to bridge the gap. Here's how you can start closing this logic gap in real time. First of all, name the process, not the problem. Instead of, why aren't you responding? Try, I can see you're thinking. Can you tell me where you are in the process? That invites engagement without pressure. Number 2, give structured time. Say something like, I need an emotional response, but I'm okay if you need a few minutes to think it through first. That does 2 things. Reduces pressure, keeps you from feeling abandoned. Step 3, separate emotion from analysis. You can say, right now I don't need you to analyze whether I'm right. I just need you to understand how I feel. And that gives his brain a clearer task. Number 4, use shorter emotional statements. Long emotional explanations can overwhelm processing for him. Instead of a 5-minute explanation, try 1 sentence. For example, I feel disconnected from you lately. Then pause. Let him process that one piece, because remember, he is a slow processor. Number 5, create a return agreement. If he needs space, make it structured. Okay, hey, you know what? Take 10 minutes, but come back to me at some point, right? This is huge because unstructured silence feels like abandonment to you. Structured pause feels like regulated distance. It's 2 completely different things. Now, here's what I want you to really take in. Your ASD husband's struggle to respond emotionally in real time is often not a reflection of how much he cares for you. It's a reflection of how his brain organizes experience. And if you keep measuring his care by your processing style, you'll keep coming up with the wrong answer. The goal here is not to ignore your needs. No. Your need for emotional connection is valid, deeply valid. But the path to getting that connection in a neurodiverse marriage is not by pushing harder into the gap. It's by understanding the gap well enough to bridge it. Because when you recognize, okay, this is processing, not rejection, everything changes. Your tone softens, your approach shifts, his system stays regulated, and suddenly you're not fighting each other anymore. You're working with the same reality. And when that happens, what once felt like emotional neglect can start to look a lot more like a different path to connection that you now finally know how to walk. If this resonates, please like, subscribe, and comment. I will read and respond to your comment. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next podcast. Would you like to schedule a paid private coaching session? This will be in the form of a face-to-face Zoom call. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this Calendly link. If you click on that link, it'll open up my calendar. You can pick the available days and times that works for your schedule. You'll get a follow-up email immediately after purchasing a session that will have the Zoom link that coincides with the day and time that you picked. I will get an email too that you scheduled a session, and I will be available on that exact day and time, and we will talk. I look forward to working with you.